Hello and welcome to this very special interview. I'm Manny from the Student New Music Network, and I'm joined by the one and only Biig Piig. How are you feeling today?
Hey, feeling good, feeling good. Bit cloudy, but I'm kind of enjoying it to be honest.
Yeah, I feel
I'm
like
liking
it's
the moodiness.
that time of the year where this weather actually fits the vibe that we're going for in the Christmas kind of time.
Definitely,
Yeah, okay.
definitely. Gonna
So
write some sad bangers.
yeah. Um, of course, we're gonna jump straight into what I feel like is one of my favorite songs of yours so far. You've literally just it's your latest single. This is what they meant. And
Thank you.
I just wanted to go deeper into that tune and like what the process was behind making that one and releasing that one.
Yeah, so that one I made. When was it that I made that? It was earlier this year. It was pretty recent. And it was made to this producer called Andrew Wells, who is just incredible. He just has incredible like guitar ideas and kind of brings it into a world like that. Like he's just very much like I don't know. I just love working with him. So we wrote that in LA actually. Uh, and it was just kind of one of those tunes where I guess for me writing, it was very much pulling from a place of like memory and nostalgia of like a night out that I had with a friend in New York. Um, and I guess like my brain constantly like romanticizes situations. Like it's just something that like I can't help but really like um delve into those emotions. I think like for the good and for the bad, I feel like sometimes. But with that track, it was very much like yeah, like thinking about that time and the city through their eyes and like just kind of falling in love with that memory again and like being like I just want to stay in that for as long as possible. And so I think that's kind of lyrically where I went with it. And melodically it always came like it always does usually, which is like when Andrew was he started producing the beat for it and then he was doing these terrorists and I always have like an SM47 and just like kind of jam out melodies and it kind of just like starts to form. I always feel like if you don't, I think the jam for me is like the moment that you let the music take the lead in what it wants to be. Do you know what I mean? I feel like if you plan too much ahead for it, I don't know, people work differently, but for me, it's like if we have too much of an idea of what it's going to be before we go in, we've already killed the process of creativity with it. Um, so I think, yeah, like going in with a completely open mind and just like kind of letting it do its thing
Yeah,
is always kind of the way I
definitely.
like to work.
I feel like you can definitely feel that on the song, and I'm so glad you said that. And the story behind it that it was the night out in New York, and I find that really cool because when I listen to it, because obviously there's no
Mm.
visual behind it yet, and you can kind of make that up yourself. And I really like doing that with a lot of the songs that I listen to. I can kind of
Yeah.
imagine that like freedom feeling that you just mentioned. So like I always picture open field, full moon, stars kind of vibe, and like you just dancing your heart out. Like that's how I feel when I
Yeah,
definitely
exactly that.
love that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm so glad that that's the story behind it. I think that's similar to what I kind of go for when I'm listening to it. So it's nice to hear,
that's
obviously, what
great. That's so nice to hear.
yeah, no, that's really cool. And can we expect? Because obviously, for me personally, that is the favorite out of the new singles that you've been dropping this year. Can we expect
Mhm.
expect like a similar vibe in terms of like the next few tracks that are going to come out?
So I don't know. I don't know because I mean with the next project I know what that sounds like and it's an array of sounds. It's a lot of different pockets musically in one kind of world with the mixtape that's coming out in January. But it's yeah, I couldn't tell you to be honest. Like I feel like maybe there's one other track on that record that's similar in a similar world. Um but I think going forward like I guess that's always the thing as well is I just never know what's going to happen next. And
Yep.
I kind of love that where it's like I never want to restrict myself to saying like, oh yeah, that's my sound from now on, because I feel like I really love um, enjoying new sounds and discovering new sounds and like playing with different elements. And I think like it's what makes me feel excited about music. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
So when it comes to like album time and stuff, it's really difficult because there's so many people being like, so what's it gonna sound like? And I'm like, literally, I have no idea until it's written. So I'm as literally as clued up as you are right now. I have no clue
No,
about it. So
I love that. I think that that's such a
yeah,
cool way to go about the process because it's really what you're specifically feeling at the time. It's not pre-planning, like you said. It's kind of like going into these sessions and writing exactly how you're feeling at the time. And I feel like you can notice
yeah,
that with all the obviously the volume one going back so long ago and then the volume two and volume three. I was going to mention the fact that
hmm,
there's it starts off with the majority of rapping and like that kind of style. I
yeah,
think you can kind of see that the your singing elements coming into it a bit more. So I'm guessing you were just feeling the singing over the rapping during those times.
yeah, exactly. It wasn't like a conscious thing, I don't think.
Yeah.
Um, it just kind of like it's just what you enjoy doing at the moment, I think. And it's not that I'll never go back to those sounds because I still write a lot of music like that. It's just right now, I don't know, the projects that I'm trying to paint, I'm like, I've got time. I mean, like try and explore some more and try and like put myself in different situations and challenge myself with different melodies and stuff like that. And like, yeah, just it's fun for me.
Actually, oh well, two things that link straight to my next question. So funny enough, you said fun.
Yeah.
It's fun for you, and funny enough that you said that it's kind of like a different sound and like
Yeah.
experimenting with different things. So I was going to get onto fun, and I feel like it's one of the most unique songs I've heard all year, and that's hard to do in music because there's so much out there that like a lot of them sound similar to another tune, but that one for me was one that like I could tell that was very different to everything I'd heard, even from you as well. And I just want
Thank
to know,
you.
did that feel like you were kind of pushing out of a comfort zone almost with that tune?
I suppose so, yeah. I mean, I guess it's like also it was so that was made with a producer called Zach Nahom, who's incredible. And it initially started with like a melody that then we were like playing with the samples and we were like cool, and then the chorus kind of came and then building around it and it just kind of started to form itself. But um so in the moment it was a little bit like it was the same feeling when we made Switch and when we made Sunny, where it was like this is like a bit mad, like in the way of like, do we like this? Like I don't know. And then by the end of it, we were like, no, this is fucking bad. Sorry, this no. I was like, no, this like feels really good. And so yeah, it was just one of those. So I guess like I don't know. I did for a minute be like, because obviously I hadn't released so much music for a while before that too. So there was people that were kind of anxious about like, well, if this is, are you gonna go kind of reintroducing yourself this year with this track? And I was like why? Do you know what I mean? Like why think about it so deeply? At the end of the day, it's a track that I love and had a really good time making. So like, why not put it out? Um, and it also made me feel like it was just one of those energies where I was like, yeah, I want to play this live. I want to like go into rooms and play this live. Like it's gonna feel insane on stage with the bass and like, oh, it's just gonna feel so good. So yeah, I guess that's the thing. I guess I never really um look at things that I release as like out of the box for me. It's more a thing of like whether or not I'm proud of them or they feel like a good song to me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, definitely. And I feel like the unique style is there. And like what I love about your music is we cannot predict what's coming next. And that is exactly what you're talking about. Like you don't even know what's coming next. So let alone your fans being up.
Yeah.
I think that's such a cool aspect to have as an artist. And experiment with loads of different things and see what's coming next. And Fun ended up on FIFA 23 soundtrack, which
It was
we've been on
crazy.
FIFA before, but with that song, I feel like it was very different to what FIFA 23 normally go for. So to know that you also
Mm.
made a track that was, very different for you as well, but it also ended up among so many other cool tunes on FIFA because that's what they know for with the soundtrack. How did it feel,
Yeah,
putting that song on there as well?
it's unreal. It's like I feel like the first time they came around with Don't Turn Around, I was like, are you sure? Like, this is crazy. It was just like I guess a really surreal moment. I remember my brother calling up and being like, oh yeah, like I saw you on FIFA, so you're actually doing it. I was like, yeah, I've been doing this for a while, man. Like this is, and he was like, oh cool, like that's incredible. But I was like, yeah, it was a big moment, and I think for them to then choose another track, which is in such a different world to Don't Turn Around, it was just exciting. There's also some incredible artists on that track list or in that soundtrack. So to sit with their names, I think is like a proud thing in itself.
Yep.
But yeah, it was a really cool feeling to see that happen.
I wanted to dive into some of your earlier stuff. Not that
Yeah.
early, but also what I believe is some of your best work, in my opinion, which is Off Skies Bleeding, which I
Oh
feel
yeah.
like, yeah, no, that project for me, like I said, that freedom aspect that I get from a lot of your music, and it's so carefree. I can stick it on, I can feel good, I can get out of my thoughts that are going on and kind of escape.
Mm.
That's what that EP is for me. And I wanted to, ask, what was it like making that project? Because I feel like it still had, big, big elements in it, but I feel like it was kind of different to your early stuff. It was less rapping, it was
Yeah,
more atmospheric, it was, you know, kind of, yeah, different for you. So how was it making that EP?
definitely. It was quite a heavy EP, I think, in general. If I'm being completely honest, I think it was just like a time where I was in a really, really bad headspace. And so I don't really listen back to it that much anymore
Understand?
because it kind of brings me back there. But it's like I'm grateful that I had music at that time because if I hadn't, I think I would have lost it. But I think, um, yeah, that album for me, like, it holds a lot of weight. It's interesting. It was definitely like a transitioning period where, um, I think music has always found me basically like the point where if I've ever like come close to losing myself or come close to like losing touch with things, it usually is the thing that like will like creep up somehow, some way, and like it has been with that from the very start when I first found it. Um, and I think this album was, or that EP was one of those times where it was like I really needed that outlet, and like yeah, so like, I've got mixed feelings about that EP. I love it. Oh, like obviously it's like when you're kids, it's like you can't just like any of them, but um, it definitely reminds me of a very like heavy period of time. So I don't know. It's a complicated one, that one.
No, understandable.
But I'm glad that I did it and put it out, and like the visuals for it and everything else came together, and it was a really beautiful project that was made with a lot of really cool people. But
Yep.
um, yeah, it's a interesting phase to look back on, definitely.
That's really nice. And I feel like I know for a lot of people, like music is an outlet, like you just mentioned, like it's a way to kind of get
Yeah.
over things. So I mean, in a lot of those, you were talking about very heavy topics, and like if you go deeper into the lyrics, like you mentioned. So I was going to talk about, of course, the different track. I mean, Drugs is my favorite on that one. I really think it's my
Mm.
favorite. And even though it's like you said, it's hard to go back to listen to. Did it feel like you kind of wrote those and kind of let it out, like it was kind of getting done with those kind of things and just pushing them out of your mind?
Just like I guess subconsciously putting it on paper made it feel less like you were dealing with it alone, kind of a thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Um, but yeah, I feel like it. I think it probably, yeah, it did help a lot. Um, yeah, it's just like another form of therapy, I guess. Not that it's the same thing, because you should also get therapy. So just allow music. It's what I've
True. Yeah.
learned.
No,
But yeah, but it definitely was for me at the time. Like pen and paper was really a friend to me at the time that I really needed. So it was like, yeah, it definitely did help. I think it's hard because sometimes you delve into it and you write about it and you're almost like saying this mantra to yourself, and you can feel a little bit like in an echo chamber of just the darkness that you're like experiencing. But on the other side of that, once you get through it and once you release it, I feel like, and put it out into the world, it's no longer yours to hold or to carry, um, and knowing that someone else might hear it and feel some comfort in that is like, okay, that's the whole reason for this. You know what I mean?
yeah, no, that's definitely the case. Like, I'm,
Oh, sorry. Oh, thank you so much. Sorry, the whole place. I just need to clean the room. If you could, do you want to start in the bathroom and I'll move the stuff out of the room? Perfect. Thank you. Sorry.
no worries. What was just,
Just a moving man.
and I was going to say that it was kind of like, even though it was difficult topics to talk about, like you said, if it's helping others, that is definitely a comforting feeling in terms of,
Yeah.
even though it was hard for you, you've now pushed on those lessons to your listeners, and they are using it to help them through that situation. So that's beautiful. That's a really nice way to, I would say, think about it. Even though it was a hard time for you, which is difficult to go back and listen, just know that even for me, a lot of those songs have helped others feel better about that situation.
That means a lot, honestly.
I'm glad.
Yeah, that's how I started. So when I found music the first time, like that was the thing that really brought me into it.
Yeah.
Because when you hear a track and you're like, even though this person might be talking about a completely different, like, or a different scenario in there and what they're experiencing, I'm listening to these lyrics and like suddenly feel less alone in my experience.